The first thing I noticed about the stranger was not his voice. It was what happened to the room when he walked into it. I was halfway through a Gershwin arrangement when the Belmont Hotel lounge changed around me. Conversations softened. A server stopped beside the piano long enough for the ice in his tray to settle. Someone pulled out a chair about 15 feet from where I sat. Then came silence. Not complete silence. Chicago never gave anyone that luxury. Beyond the tall windows, traffic murmured along Michigan Avenue, and somewhere near the bar, a glass touched polished wood. But the people closest to the stranger suddenly seemed careful. I kept playing. I had been blind for 8 years, but blindness had never given me magical hearing. 20 years at a piano had simply taught me which sounds mattered. His shoes were expensive. Leather soles. Measured steps. No hurry. No nervous adjustment when he sat down. Then I heard the faint mechanical rhythm of a watch when he rested one arm near the table. I finished Gershwin and moved into something quieter. My father's melody. Thomas Bennett had written it when I was a child, although calling it finished would have been generous. The piece always ended after the same unresolved phrase because 8 measures were missing. Dad used to smile whenever I complained about it. Some songs make you earn the ending, Claire. After he died, I started inventing my own final measures. Nobody noticed. Nobody except the stranger. I reached the 8th measure, changed the harmony, and let the final chord settle. Applause moved gently through the lounge. Then a low male voice came from the table 15 feet away. That is not how it ends. My hands remained above the keys. Excuse me. His chair moved slightly. The melody. His voice was calm, American, probably somewhere in his 30s. You changed it. I smiled because irritation was easier than surprise. That is usually allowed when I am the pianist. Usually. Are you a music critic? No, composer? Definitely not. A few people nearby laughed softly, but he did not. I lowered my hands into my lap. Then you have an impressive amount of confidence for a stranger correcting someone who plays professionally. There was a pause. Adrian. What? My name. Now I am slightly less of a stranger. Claire. I know. That erased my smile. How? The program by the entrance. Reasonable. Still, something in his delivery made me cautious. I turned slightly toward his table. So, Adrian, how exactly do you think the piece ends? Another pause. Longer this time. I did not say I knew the ending. You said mine was wrong. Because the original did not have one. My fingers tightened against the fabric of my dress. Very few people knew that. My father had never published the composition. I had never recorded it. As far as I knew, I was the only person who still played it. Where did you hear that melody? I asked. The mechanical watch ticked once through the quiet between us. A long time ago. Where? Chicago. That narrows it down beautifully. For the first time, I heard something almost like amusement in his breathing. Then it disappeared. You should not play that song for strangers. My spine straightened. Why? Because sometimes strangers remember things better left forgotten. I stood slowly beside the bench, my hand finding the familiar handle of my white cane. Who are you? His chair shifted, but his footsteps did not approach me. Someone who knew the music before you changed it. My pulse climbed. That is not an answer. No, he sounded almost regretful. It is not. I heard him stand. Around us, the lounge became strangely still again. Then he said the one sentence that turned an unfinished melody into the beginning of something I could no longer ignore. Your father never played the 8th measure that way. For 3 nights after Adrian left the Belmont, I told myself I was not waiting for him. On the 4th night, I stopped believing myself. His chair remained empty through my first set. I knew because nobody pulled it away from the table, and the room never developed that strange, careful silence that seemed to follow him. I played standards, took my break, drank half a cup of coffee, and refused to ask Daniel at the bar whether Adrian had returned. At 9:17, the hotel doors opened. Measured footsteps crossed marble, then softened against carpet. A chair moved 15 feet from the piano. Finally, the faint ticking of a mechanical watch reached me during a pause between songs. I hated that I recognized him that quickly. You are late, I said. I was not aware we had plans. We did not. Then I am exactly on time. I almost smiled. Almost. You owe me an explanation. I expected that. Good. Start with my father. Adrian remained quiet long enough to annoy me. Thomas Bennett played a private room called the Marlowe. My father taught music at a community college. He did both. Not according to him. There were things Thomas preferred his family not know. I placed my hands on the piano without playing. You keep saying his name like you knew him. I did. 2 words. No hesitation. My stomach tightened. How well? Well enough to recognize his music. That is convenient. It is also true. I pressed one key softly. Middle C. Something solid inside a conversation built from shadows. Tell me about the missing measures. The watch stopped ticking for a moment, probably covered by his sleeve as he moved his arm. There were 8. I turned toward him. How do you know that? Because I heard the complete piece once. My breath caught. That is impossible. Why? Because my father told me he never finished it. Then he lied to you. Anger came faster than grief. Do not talk about him like that. I am not judging him, Claire. You are calling him a liar. I am telling you he had reasons to hide things. From his daughter? Especially from his daughter. The words landed harder than they should have. I stood and found my cane beside the bench. You know what I dislike about you? I suspect the list is developing. You answer questions by creating worse questions. This time I heard the smallest breath of laughter. That was not intentional. Where was the Marlowe? River North. An old private club. It closed years ago. And what was my father doing there? Adrian paused. Playing piano. That is the safe answer. It is the answer I can give you tonight. I tightened my grip on the cane. You do not get to decide how much truth I can handle. The room around us continued humming softly, but the space between his chair and my piano felt completely still. You are right, he said. I had expected resistance, not agreement. Then tell me everything. I cannot. Cannot or will not. Both. Why? His voice lowered. Because some of what I know belongs to people who are still alive. And some of it belongs to my father. Yes. Which means some of it belongs to me. Another silence. That, Adrian said, is exactly why I came back. I sat again, more unsettled than before. You came back for me? I came back because of the melody. There was something painfully precise about the distinction. So this is not personal. I did not say that. My fingers hovered above the keys. What did my father hide in those 8 measures? Adrian stood. The mechanical watch became clearer as he adjusted his cuff. I do not know. But you think he hid something? Yes. What? His footsteps stopped beside the edge of the carpet, still keeping distance from me. A message. A warning. Maybe evidence. My pulse quickened. Evidence of what? The hotel doors opened somewhere behind him, letting in a brief breath of cold Chicago air. Adrian answered before walking away. If you want to understand why Thomas Bennett never finished that song for you, Claire, find out what happened at the Marlowe 20 years ago. The Marlowe did not exist anymore, but its name followed me home. The next morning, I called Rachel before I finished my first cup of coffee. She had been my closest friend since college, which meant she knew when my curiosity had crossed the line into obsession. You met a mysterious man at a hotel, and now you want me to investigate a private club that closed 20 years ago, she said. When you say it like that, it sounds unreasonable. It is unreasonable. Will you help me? She sighed. Obviously, I gave her everything Adrian had told me, which was not much. Thomas Bennett. The Marlowe. River North. 20 years ago. 8 missing measures. Rachel searched while I sat at my kitchen table, listening to her keyboard through the speakerphone. I found references to the building, she said after several minutes. Private dining club. Members only. Closed after ownership disputes. Anything about musicians? Not yet. More typing. Then she stopped. Claire, what did you say the stranger's last name was? I did not. He never gave me one. Then we have a problem. What kind? There is an Adrian connected to the Marlowe. My hand tightened around my coffee mug. Adrian what? Cole. The name meant nothing to me. The silence from Rachel suggested it should have. Keep going. Adrian Cole. 36. His family owned interests in the Marlowe property through several companies. Businessman. Rachel hesitated. Technically, Rachel. There are newspaper articles that describe the Cole family as having long-standing ties to organized crime in Chicago. Nothing I am reading says Adrian was convicted of anything, but people clearly treat him as the head of the family now. I sat very still. The mechanical watch. The room growing careful. The servers changing their rhythm around him. Suddenly those details arranged themselves into a picture I had refused to draw. You are telling me Adrian is a mafia boss. I am telling you that is how several sources characterize him. I thought about his calm voice correcting my father's melody. No threats. No raised voice. Somehow that made the memory heavier. There is more, Rachel said. What? An old society column mentions Thomas Bennett performing at a Marlowe charity dinner. My breath stopped. My father. His full name. Same college affiliation. It has to be him. What year? 20 years ago. I stood too quickly and caught the edge of the table with my palm. The same year Adrian told me to investigate. Claire, maybe you should stay away from this. From Adrian? From all of it. I understood why she said it. I also knew I could not return to the piano every night pretending my father had not hidden an entire chapter of his life. That evening, I arrived at the Belmont early. Adrian did not appear during my first set, or my second. At 9:40, Daniel approached while I was drinking water near the piano. Claire, there is a gentleman asking whether you are taking requests. I heard the smile in Daniel's voice. Then the watch reached me. Tick, tick, tick. He does not need to ask, I said. Adrian's footsteps stopped several feet away. That sounds dangerously close to hospitality. Do not get comfortable. I rarely do. I turned toward him. Adrian Cole. Everything around us changed. Not dramatically. That was what disturbed me. Daniel became quiet. A conversation near the bar faded. Adrian did not move for several seconds. Rachel works quickly, he said. So that is you. Yes. And the stories? Some are true. Which ones? The ones that made you say my name differently. I held my cane across my knees. Are you the head of the Cole family? Yes. Are you involved in organized crime? A longer silence. My family has a history I will not insult you by pretending does not exist. That was carefully worded. It was accurate. Try this one then. Were you at the Marlowe 20 years ago? His answer came immediately. Yes. Was my father there? Yes. Why? Adrian stepped closer, then stopped before entering my space. Because Thomas Bennett was not just the man playing piano that night. My heartbeat climbed. What was he? The mechanical watch marked 2 seconds before Adrian answered. The only person in that building willing to tell my father no. Your father did not raise his voice that night, Adrian said. He did not need to. I stayed seated at the Belmont piano, my cane across my knees, while the room slowly recovered from hearing his last name spoken aloud. Conversations returned in cautious pieces. Glass touched glass near the bar. Someone laughed too loudly and stopped. Adrian remained several feet away. What did your father want? I asked. Control. Of what? Businesses. Property. People who depended on him. Adrian paused. Thomas believed one decision would hurt people who had nothing to do with our family. And he challenged him. In front of everyone. I tried to picture my father as Adrian described him, then remembered that pictures were not how I understood people anymore. I remembered Dad tapping a pencil against sheet music, his coffee cooling beside the piano, his voice, telling students that confidence was useless without character. What happened? My father listened. That surprises me. It surprised everyone. Adrian's mechanical watch marked the silence. Thomas had something my father respected. Power. No. The willingness to walk away without asking for anything. I turned toward Adrian. And where were you? 17 years old. Sitting near the back of the room, convinced powerful men always knew what they were doing. Did my father change your mind? Eventually. Before I could ask more, Daniel approached. Mr. Cole, Mr. Whitmore is asking for you. Adrian did not answer immediately. A second man approached with quick, impatient steps. Adrian, we need your approval tonight. The investors are waiting. Adrian's voice remained level. Then they can wait another 5 minutes. This cannot wait. Everything can wait 5 minutes. The man stopped speaking. No argument. No protest. Just silence. I understood then what power sounded like when it did not need volume. Adrian turned back toward me. There is a charity gala here tomorrow evening. I have business upstairs, but I will be in the ballroom afterward. Is that an invitation? It is information. You really are terrible at invitations. I have limited practice. The next evening, I was already scheduled to perform at the gala, which felt like either coincidence or Chicago having a strange sense of humor. By 8:30, the ballroom was crowded. I could hear hundreds of conversations beneath crystal chandeliers I remembered from before I lost my sight. Silverware moved against china. Shoes crossed marble. Donations were announced. Then Adrian entered. I knew before anyone said his name. Voices lowered in waves. A hotel manager crossed the room quickly. Someone abandoned a sentence halfway through it. Adrian's footsteps approached the piano and stopped at the same respectful distance he always kept. Claire. Mr. Cole. That sounds hostile. I am experimenting with formality. I preferred Adrian. Earn it. He was quiet for a moment. Fair enough. I finished my set 20 minutes later. When the applause faded, I found my cane and stood. 1. Question. Asked. Are you a mafia boss? The ballroom seemed impossibly loud around us and strangely silent between us. Adrian did not laugh. He did not offer me a polished denial. That is what some people call me. What do you call yourself? A man who inherited responsibilities before he understood their cost. That sounds better. It is not meant to. I appreciated that answer more than I wanted to. Did my father work for your family? No. Did he owe your father money? No. Then why was he involved? Adrian drew a slow breath. Because Thomas discovered something happening through businesses connected to my family, and he refused to ignore it. My grip tightened around the cane. What did he discover? I never knew everything. But you knew enough. Yes. Enough for what? His watch ticked once. Twice. Enough to know that Thomas changed the direction of my life. I waited. Adrian continued, quieter now. The night after the Marlowe meeting, he found me ready to make a decision I would have regretted for the rest of my life. He stopped me. He made me sit down. Then he played that melody. My throat tightened. The complete melody? Yes. All 8 missing measures. Every one. I stepped closer, stopping when my cane touched the edge of the carpet between us. Then tell me how it ends. Adrian did not move. I cannot. Why? Because your father made me promise that if you ever came looking for the ending, I would not give it to you. I felt anger rise again. He mentioned me? By name. What exactly did he say? Adrian's answer came softly enough that I almost missed it beneath the ballroom noise. He said the ending was never mine to give you. Then stop protecting the ending and start telling me the truth, I said. Adrian stood across from me while the gala continued around us, hundreds of voices blending into a distant hum. You think I am protecting the ending? He asked. I think you are protecting yourself. His mechanical watch ticked twice before he answered. That may be true. I had expected denial. His agreement made me angrier. Why did you approach me at the Belmont? Because of the melody. You already admitted. That. Not completely. I waited. I recognized Thomas's composition, he said. And I believed you might have what he left behind. My fingers tightened around the handle of my cane. So you were looking for something? Yes. And I was a convenient way to find it. At first, the honesty hurt more than a polished excuse would have. What exactly were you hoping I had? A notebook, sheet music, anything containing the original 8 measures. Why? Because Thomas believed those measures could lead someone to records he had hidden. I felt the ballroom disappear behind the pounding of my own heartbeat. You knew this from the beginning. I suspected it. And every time you sat 15 feet from my piano, every time you asked about my father, you were searching for evidence. At first, he repeated, stop saying that. My voice stayed quiet, but he heard the warning. Claire. No. You do not get to turn this into something softer because you started caring somewhere along the way. Silence. That is fair, he said. You knew who I was before I knew your last name. Yes. You knew my father had hidden something. Yes. You knew he mentioned me. Yes. Each answer felt like another locked door I had not known existed. Did you ever intend to tell me? Yes. When? Adrian took a breath. When I knew whether the past could reach you. I almost laughed. There it is. What? Protection. I turned toward his voice. Men like you love that word because it makes control sound noble. He did not respond. My blindness does not make me incapable of deciding what I can handle. Being Thomas Bennett's daughter does not give you authority over me. And whatever my father left behind belongs to me before it belongs to you, your family, or anyone else. You are right. Then prove it. The ballroom noise seemed to recede again. How? He asked. You do not search my apartment. You do not send anyone to find records. You do not investigate my father behind my back. If I find something, I decide what happens next. Agreed. That easily? No, his answer surprised me. Nothing about agreeing is easy. I am simply doing it anyway. For the first time that evening, some of my anger loosened. Not enough to become trust. Enough to keep listening. What happened 20 years ago? I asked. Thomas discovered financial records moving through companies associated with my family. Transactions that did not make sense. He believed someone was using the Cole name as cover. Your father? Thomas never told me who. Did your father know? I do not know. That is difficult to believe. I was 17, Claire. My father did not explain his business to me. He expected obedience, not understanding. His voice changed slightly on the last word. Not weakness. Memory. And my father? Thomas refused to hand over what he found. He said evidence should belong to the truth, not to the most powerful man in the room. That sounded painfully like him. I remember Dad correcting my posture at the piano, telling me that playing louder did not make a wrong note right. Why did he trust you? I asked. Adrian was quiet. I am not certain he did. Then why tell you about the 8 measures? Because that night he saw something in me I had not learned to see in myself, which was the possibility that I might become different from my father. I swallowed. Did you? His answer came without pride. Some days. I turned away, finding the edge of the piano with my fingertips. You said my father made you promise something. He did. Was the promise only about the ending? No, I faced him again. What else? Adrian's watch marked the silence. There were 3 promises. Tell me. Not tonight. Anger returned immediately. You are doing it again. No. This time I am asking you to find something first. What? Thomas kept a brown leather notebook. His initials were pressed into the cover. My breath caught. I remembered it. A box in my apartment. Sheet music I had not touched since Dad died. If you still have it, Adrian said, open it before you decide whether you ever want to speak to me again. I gripped the piano edge. And if I find what you think is inside? Adrian stepped back instead of closer. Then you decide what happens next. And you? I wait. I listened to the most powerful man in the room surrender the only thing he seemed naturally built to demand. Control. You want me to trust you? I asked. No, Adrian said quietly. I want the chance to earn it. Earning it turned out to be quieter than I expected. Adrian did not call the next morning. He did not send flowers, messages, or one of his employees to check whether I had found the notebook. For a man accustomed to making things happen, doing nothing might have been the first difficult thing I asked of him. Sunday afternoon, I pulled the storage box from the back of my bedroom closet and carried it to the kitchen table. My father's life had been reduced to paper, photographs, recital programs, and music I had not touched in years. I moved slowly, identifying each item by texture and memory. Near the bottom, my fingers found cracked leather. The initials were still raised beneath my thumb. TB. I sat down. For several minutes, I did not open it. Then I remembered my father tapping one key on our old upright piano when I was 7. Listen again, Claire. The obvious note is not always the important one. I opened the notebook. Most pages meant nothing beneath my fingertips, so I called Rachel and asked her to photograph them for me. She came over within an hour. There is a section near the back, she said. 8 measures by themselves. My pulse quickened. Read every note. She did. I tested the sequence on my keyboard. Once. Twice. Then again more slowly. Something was wrong. Not with the melody. With the choices. My father favored certain resolutions so consistently that I could predict where his hands wanted to go. These measures resisted those habits. Deliberately. He changed the pattern. I whispered. What does that mean? Rachel asked. It means he wanted me to notice. I remembered the childhood game Adrian had mentioned. My father assigned letters to emphasized notes, then sometimes used numeric values at the end of a sequence. Rachel read the measures again while I isolated the unusual notes. 6 letters emerged first. H, A, R, B, O, R. Then 2 numeric markers. 9, 4. Harbor 94, Rachel said. The name meant nothing to me. I called Adrian. He answered on the first ring. Claire. I found the notebook. Silence. And that is your first test. He caught himself. What would you like me to do? Better. Tell me whether Harbor 94 means anything to you. His breathing changed. Yes. What is it? It was a private storage facility near the Chicago River. My father's organization used secured units there decades ago. It closed years back, but some records were transferred when the property changed ownership. I rested my palm over the notebook. Do you know where those records are now? I can find out. No, all right. No argument. I will find out through an attorney, I said. One I choose. That is wise. You sound surprised. I am learning not to answer that question. I smiled despite myself. There is something else. My fingers had discovered a thin envelope tucked beneath the notebook's back cover while we spoke. Rachel says there is a letter. Adrian became silent. Who is it addressed to? Me. I handed the page to Rachel. Read it. Her voice softened. Claire, if you ever find this notebook, then the past has traveled farther than I hoped it would. My throat tightened. Rachel continued. You were 7 when I wrote these measures, and already you could hear a changed note from 2 rooms away. Remember our game. The music will tell you where to look, but do not confuse a clue with the truth. I pressed my fingertips against the table. My father had written this while I could still see, long before blindness changed my life. He had trusted the ear he helped train, not the disability I would later acquire. Rachel kept reading. Harbor 94 holds records I could not safely keep at home. Take them to an attorney you trust. Make your own decision about what they mean. She stopped. There is one final paragraph. Read it. Rachel hesitated. If Adrian Cole is standing beside you when you find this, ask him what he promised me the last night we spoke. If he tells you without hiding behind protection, listen. If he does not, walk away. My apartment became completely silent. Adrian was still on the phone. I could hear his breathing through the speaker. You heard that? I asked. Yes. Then this is your second test. His voice was low. Ask me. I closed my hand around my father's notebook. What exactly did you promise him, Adrian? I promised him 3 things, Adrian said. His answer came without hesitation. That I would never use you to recover what he hid. That I would tell you the truth if his past ever reached you. And that once you knew everything, the choice would be yours. I pressed my fingertips against the cracked leather notebook. You already failed the first 2. Yes. How badly? The line stayed quiet for a moment. I found you 3 years ago. My breath caught. Rachel stopped moving beside me. 3 years. I learned Thomas had died. I wanted to know whether he had left anything behind, so I found you. You investigated me. Yes. Did you watch me? I confirmed where you worked and that you were safe. Then I stayed away. That is not the comforting answer you think it is. I did not expect it to be. Anger moved through me slowly. Why stay away? Because you had a life untouched by mine. Friends, work, music. I told myself leaving you alone was protection. There it was again. That word. Protection is your favorite lie. Adrian said nothing. You use it when you are afraid to let someone choose. His breathing changed. That is fair. No, it is accurate. I stood from the kitchen table and walked toward the window, counting the familiar steps beneath my feet. You knew who I was before you ever sat in the Belmont. Yes. Then our meeting was not an accident. It was. Explain. I knew you performed in Chicago. I did not know you had started playing at the Belmont. I was there for a business meeting. Then I heard Thomas's melody. I thought back to that first night. The chair 15 feet away. The silence. His reaction when I reached my invented ending. And you stayed because you thought I had the missing measures. At first. Then you kept coming because you made me forget what everyone expected me to be. I closed my eyes from habit. That sounds beautiful enough to distract me from the problem. I am not trying to distract you. Good. Then listen. I turned toward the phone. You do not protect me by controlling what I know. You do not protect me by deciding which truths I can handle. And you definitely do not protect me by quietly managing my life from a distance. Understood. No more checking on me without permission. Agreed. No contacting Harbor 94. Agreed. No sending anyone. Agreed. And the next time you think you know what is best for me, remember that knowing more than I do does not give you authority over me. Adrian was silent for one beat. I will remember. I returned to the table. Rachel touched my arm only after I reached toward her first. I am calling my brother, she said quietly. He can recommend an attorney. Do it. Adrian remained on the line. Claire. What? Thomas was right. About what? Making me earn the right to stand beside you. I swallowed. You have not earned it yet. I know. We ended the call. Rachel contacted her brother, and within an hour I had the name of Rebecca Shaw, an attorney downtown who handled complex records disputes. I emailed her office and placed my father's notebook inside a locked drawer. At 10:17 that night, my phone rang again. Unknown number. Claire Bennett, a man asked. Yes. My name is Michael Grant. I manage archived accounts for the company that acquired Harbor 94's records. I sat upright. How did you get my number? Your father listed you as the beneficiary contact on an old storage account. When our company digitized the archive last year, we located you through the information in that file, and updated public contact records. My heartbeat accelerated. Why are you calling now? Papers shifted on his end. Because someone came to our office this afternoon asking for Thomas Bennett's archived file. I gripped the phone. Did you give it to him? No. His authorization did not verify. Who was he? Michael hesitated. I do not know why he believed we would accept it, but he claimed he was acting for Adrian Cole. I stared into the darkness that had been part of my world for 8 years, listening to the small electrical hum of my apartment. Adrian had promised not to contact Harbor 94. Either he had broken another promise within hours, or someone else knew we had found the trail. Did he give a name? I asked. Yes. Michael lowered his voice. Elliot Mercer. Do not call Adrian yet, Rebecca Shaw said the next morning. Her office was 12 floors above LaSalle Street, quiet except for the ventilation system and the distant rhythm of traffic below. Rachel sat beside me. My father's notebook rested on the conference table between us. Why not? I asked. Because Mercer used Adrian's name. Before we decide what that means, we preserve the records and establish who accessed them. I liked Rebecca immediately. She did not speak around me. She spoke to me. Michael Grant had already agreed to release copies directly to her office, with every transfer documented. By noon, the archived materials arrived. Rebecca read account statements and old correspondence while Rachel described handwritten notes. Then Rebecca stopped. There is an audio recording. My stomach tightened. Play it. Piano filled the office speakers. 3 notes were enough to make my chest ache. My father's melody. The missing measures followed. Then a man's recorded voice said, "If anything happens to these records, the Cole family is responsible." Rachel inhaled sharply. Rebecca paused the file. Claire. Again. She replayed it. This time I ignored the words and listened to the pianist. Something bothered me. Again. On the 3rd pass, I heard it. My father used the sustain pedal lightly. He hated muddy harmony. This player held it too long before the 6th measure. Then there was the breathing. Dad inhaled before difficult transitions, never after them. I had heard him practice thousands of times, years before I lost my sight. That is not him. Rebecca went silent. The voice. Rachel asked. The piano. I pointed toward the speaker. That is his composition, but my father is not playing it. Rebecca replayed the section. How certain are you? Certain enough to have it tested. Then that is what we do. My phone vibrated. Adrian. I let it ring once before answering. Claire. His voice was controlled, but something beneath it was not. Did you send Elliot Mercer to Harbor 94? No. Did you tell him about the notebook? No. Did you tell anyone? No. A pause. Why are you asking? Because Mercer tried to access my father's records using your name. Adrian became completely silent. Are you with your attorney? He asked. Yes. Good. There is a recording, I said. It makes your family responsible for whatever happened around those records. Do you believe it? No. Why? I turned toward Rebecca's computer. Because whoever made it understood my father's music, but did not understand my father. Adrian exhaled slowly. Elliot studied piano. Rebecca's pen stopped moving. How do you know? His father, Charles Mercer, insisted on lessons. Elliot spent years around musicians at the Marlowe. That does not prove he made the recording. No, Adrian said. It does not. The answer mattered. The old Adrian would have decided first and explained later. Rebecca is having everything independently authenticated, I said. Until then, you do nothing. Understood. Nothing, Adrian. I heard you. Papers shifted across Rebecca's desk. Then she stopped. Claire, there is something else. What? An agreement establishing joint access to the Harbor account. My fingers tightened around the phone. Whose names? Thomas Bennett and Charles Mercer. Adrian's breathing changed. What date? Rebecca told him. 20 years ago. The same year as the Marlowe meeting. The same year my father buried 8 measures inside a notebook. There is an additional authorization page, Rebecca said. It carries another signature. Whose? I asked. She hesitated. Adrian Cole. Silence filled the office. That is impossible, Adrian said. Why? Because 20 years ago, I was 17. I had no authority over any Cole account. Rebecca immediately turned another page. Then this document may be more important than it appears. I felt the entire mystery shift beneath my feet. Someone had not merely hidden the truth. Someone had built another truth on top of it, using signatures, music, and the Cole name as carefully placed pieces. Adrian, I said, have you ever seen that agreement? His answer came quietly. Never. Do you recognize Charles Mercer's involvement? Another pause. I knew Charles handled financial matters for my father. I never knew Thomas shared access to anything with him. Rebecca closed the folder. Then nobody draws conclusions until the documents and recording are examined. Adrian did not argue. Agreed. I rested my hand over my father's notebook. For years, I thought the missing measures were an unfinished song. Now they felt like instructions from a man who had known evidence could lie. And for the first time, I understood why he had taught me the same lesson when I was 7. The obvious note was never necessarily the important one. Then we prove what is real, I said. Adrian did not argue, and that became the first evidence that something in him had changed. Rebecca sent the recording, the agreement, and every related document to independent specialists. A little over 2 weeks later, the first results arrived. Adrian's signature had been reproduced from an older document. My father's signature was genuine, but the page carrying it had originally belonged to another agreement. Charles Mercer's signature was genuine as well. An archive correspondence showed that he had controlled access to the Harbor account. The audio examination found multiple edits in the recording. My ear had found the first lie. The evidence found the rest. Rebecca explained the pattern carefully. Years earlier, money had moved through companies associated with the Cole family, but several transactions led back to accounts Charles controlled. Thomas discovered the inconsistencies and preserved copies before anyone could make them disappear. Elliot later inherited enough of his father's records to understand what Thomas had found. When the old archive was digitized, he apparently realized the past could surface again. There is enough here for investigators, Rebecca said. Adrian sat across the office from me. I knew exactly where because his mechanical watch marked the silence. What happens to Elliot? I asked. That is for the authorities and the courts to determine. I turned toward Adrian. And you? I give them everything I have. You are not going to handle Mercer yourself? The old Adrian might have taken offense. This one understood what I was really asking. No, why? His answer came quietly. Because you taught me that power does not become honorable simply because I believe I am using it for the right reason. My throat tightened. You remembered. I am trying to. The investigation continued. Statements were taken. Records were preserved. Rebecca handled every request involving my father's files. I returned to the Belmont because Chicago had the decency to keep moving even when my understanding of the past did not. Winter pressed against the windows. Guests ordered bourbon. Daniel complained when someone placed a wet glass too close to the piano. Adrian stayed away. 1 week became 2, then 3. At first, I assumed he was giving me space. Eventually, I understood he was giving me something harder for him to surrender. Choice. On a Thursday night, I finished my final set and remained at the piano. 9 o'clock passed. Then 9:15. No measured footsteps. No mechanical watch. I told myself I was relieved. At 9:23, I began my father's melody. This time, when I reached the place where uncertainty had lived for 20 years, I did not stop. The 8 measures unfolded beneath my fingers exactly as he had written them. Not a warning anymore. Not evidence. Music. My father had hidden truth inside something beautiful without allowing the truth to destroy the beauty itself. The final note faded. Then the hotel doors opened. Leather soles crossed marble. Softer footsteps reached the carpet. Tick, tick, tick. Adrian stopped several feet from the piano. Hello, Claire. I kept my hands on the keys. You are late. I was not aware I had an appointment. You did not. Then apparently, I am exactly on time. I smiled despite myself. Still difficult. I have had 3 weeks to practice. Silence settled between us, but it no longer felt crowded with secrets. Why did you stay away? I asked. Because the last thing you asked from me was the right to choose. And if I had never wanted to see you again, then you would never have seen me again. The answer hurt in a way I respected. You could have come back sooner. I wanted to, but you did not. Wanting. Something does not make it mine. I turned slightly toward his voice. The man I first met could change an entire room without raising his voice. He inherited power before he understood its cost, and for years he had confused control with protection. Now he stood several feet away, waiting. There is something you have not heard, I said. The missing measures? The real ones. His breathing stopped for half a second. May I listen? For ordinary words. Somehow, They meant more than every promise he had made. Sit down, Adrian. His familiar chair moved softly across the carpet. I began from the first measure. When I reached the old, unfinished passage, my hands continued without hesitation. 8 measures. Then the final chord. Neither of us spoke until the sound disappeared. Claire. Yes. May I stay? I rested my fingers lightly on the keys and smiled toward the sound of his voice. For one more song. He could make an entire room obey him. But I was the woman who taught him that trust begins where control ends.